Hey guys, thank you for joining us. This is Carlos, your host of the Bring on the Blitz podcast. I'm joined here with Rios, man. How's it going, Rios?
I'm pretty good. Fifth Champions League in 8 years. Gotta love it.
There you go. And I've got, of course, the one and only Poppy. How's it going, Poppy?
¿Qué pasó, brother? ¿Qué es lo que hace?
There you go. There you go. Hey guys, today on tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about a trade made by the Houston Texans and some couple of trade rumors. Of course, we will also be talking about the Texans secondary, and all three of us are going to evaluate the secondary with maybe a new addition coming along. All this and more after our intro. All right. So today the Houston Texans made a quite a particular trade. Nothing too flashy, but it came from the Los Angeles Rams, Ben Skowronek, wide receiver. Now you're probably wondering, do the Texans need more wide receiver depth? Probably, but we already have a bunch of wide receivers. The Texans do. So Ben Skowronek, what does Ben Skowronek bring to the table? Well, uh,
A
basically
strong last name.
a strong last name, a long name on the jersey. But the Texans acquired him from the Los Angeles Rams special teams. He was a special teams captain for the Los Angeles Rams. They really they had a pick, and Rios, can you back me up on this one? What was the pick for? What did he go for?
They traded him for a 2026 sixth rounder, excuse me, and they
Mhm.
received Ben Skowronek and a 2026 seventh rounder in return.
That's right. So now in the
What a
wide
steal.
receiving
What
core,
a steal.
what a steal, yeah. So in the wide receiving core, we got the Texans have Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Noah Brown, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, and now with the addition of Ben Skowronek. However, there's really not too many stats with Ben Skowronek because again he specializes more on special teams. And that's basically where I believe the Texans are going to use him there. The thing about Ben Skowronek, his highlights mainly include in special teams. So he joined the Rams in 2021 and has played at least like 58% of special team snaps, including like 71% in special team snaps in 2023, just last season. Made about 13 tackles last season, and he was just a top gunner during the kickoffs and punts. So I think that adds on just to the three parts of the team. It makes the Texans special teams just a bit stronger. With that being said, before we go in a little deeper into the wide receiving core and how maybe this affects the Texans wide receiving core, I want to get your opinion, guys. What does this mean with the addition of Ben Skowronek? Do you guys think it's maybe not have too much of an effect as far as the wide receivers core, or could be something different? What do you make of this acquisition by the Texans of Ben Skowronek? I'm gonna start with you, Rios. What do you think?
I think with him, they did have an emphasis on special teams the last couple of years, and they have one of the top 10 units in special teams. So that's a great solid addition, especially at the gunner position. As far as receiving, don't expect too many stats out of him, but he is a great run blocker, and I think that's something that they value in this zone running scheme is receivers that are willing and capable blockers, which kind of might be the marking the end of the tenure of Robert Woods as a Texan because he
Oh,
doesn't have much value as a receiver. His main thing was as a blocker, and sometimes he will make crucial catches on third down. But now you have Stephon Diggs, you know, out there with Nico and Tank Dell, so it's not a whole lot of room. And he doesn't play special teams, so I think when it comes to the final 53-man roster, don't be surprised if Robert Woods gets cut because it's about I believe a $5 million cap savings.
right.
And this guy's younger, cheaper, and basically is going to be a much better run blocker on like especially on those goal line packages. That way you could take Tank Dell out of there. You don't have him doing goal
Yeah.
line blocks
Right.
At
Especially as
on, run, on, on running
5'5",
plays.
160 pounds. Yeah. It's crazy.
So you can use this guy as a blocker on those goal line situations instead of having your your top guys like Nico and Tank Dell trying to block out there, or Stephon Diggs. So I definitely see probably wide receiver number 6. I think Noah Brown and John Mitchell are going to be ahead of him as far as the pecking order.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Tank Dell get injured last year during a blocking assignment?
Yeah, that's why
Yes.
I mentioned that.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a goal line run, and he basically ended up somehow, because he started off on the outside and he made his way to the middle to make that extra
he
block,
tried
so
to
they
make the
can
play. Yeah,
and ended up getting his leg broken.
it happens. It happens.
And Pavi, what do you think, bud? What are your thoughts on him?
So this is year 2 in the Miko regime, and obviously a lot of year 1 was a lot of like, okay, there's a lot that this team needs that needs to be changed now.
Right.
And the Texans had an opportunity last year in the draft, and they seized it. They took the number 2 pick. They took Will Anderson, the number 3 pick, and they just made a lot of big changes, like change today type of changes. And obviously that turned out to be the right move at the time.
Right.
The team did a complete 180, made the playoffs with which a lot of people didn't think it was possible, me included. And it feels like after last year, the Miko and the Texas organizations, the organization are not so much doubling down on making big changes, but just patching little holes here and there, like just trying to supplement the team that's already out there. And besides Stephon Diggs, obviously, which is the big acquisition of the year, uh,
Right.
another weapon for CJ. This draft, we talked about it in the last couple of weeks. Ever since the draft, it was a lot of life-changing people coming in, but it's a lot of people that the team could really use. Secondary included, offensive line. We saw all the injuries last year, so it seems like to me like this trade, like you talked about it. He's the captain of the special teams for the LA Rams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe last year the Texans were ranked like 28th, maybe 30th in
Mm-hmm.
special teams. And we already know, man, special teams, special plays, special players. And
Yeah.
I believe this is the kind of trade, the kind of impact that this trade is going to have. He's obviously being brought here to kind of like bump that defensive rating just a little bit more. Bringing a
Right.
guy who's done it, who specializes on it, it's just going to help D'Amico have somebody out there that he can trust. And kind of like Rio said, he's a run blocker. So he's a little bit more versatile than just a wide receiver 6. Because why would you ever trade for a 6 wide receiver if there wasn't like some kind of plan behind it? So I feel like overall this is a good trade. It's not flashy by any means.
Yeah.
It's not even close to being kind of sort of flashy, but
Right.
it's something that I believe will only make the team better. So
You know what I noticed is the fact that Nick Casario did something similar. So he was scheduled to hit waivers by the LA Rams. They were going to release him. And then Nick Casario kind of stepped up and swooped him up by trading over one of the picks for 2026, like Rio said. And similarly, he did that with Joe Mixon. Before he hit waivers, he came in, swooped in, and gave him a $3 million deal as well. So I guess it's like $3 million, 3-year deal. I apologize, for $27 million.
that was like $3 million. Damn.
Yeah, sorry, he got it for cheap. No, he got him a three-year deal for $27 million. So, but it's like the second time he does that, and it's kind of
Well, I get the reasoning why, because basically if they hit waivers, you're going to get outbid.
Mm-hmm.
Trading for them, you're not bidding against anybody. You're just giving up a day 3 draft pick that you probably would have traded anyway.
Yeah.
To get a guy that basically possibly be your special teams captain.
Yeah. And there you go. So they clearly saw something in Skowronek. And I mean, like we said earlier, like it's not flashy. I'll give an example. In 2022, he caught like only 39 passes for 376 yards and 11 games. He is versatile. He rushes for touchdowns. And last season, he was the Rams' number five receivers, and he caught 8 passes for 68 yards and a touchdown. So, so he's probably gonna, he'll probably fight for that number 5 role, behind Stephon Diggs, Nico, Tank, and John Mechie. And so there's but most likely I could see definitely Skowronek in the special teams role for sure. But like Real said, I do agree with him on that one, that I could see him more in the run blocking and things like that. So this way you don't have to, use Tank Dell and put him in precarious situations where he might get injured again like he did last season. So I like this. I think they did it, I guess, for reassurance and making sure that you have that and not putting any other receiver at risk. So I think I like this. I like this. A great job by the Texans for doing that. Rios, how do you feel about this one though?
Yeah, it's a solid addition. Like I said, you can never have too many special teamers because injuries happen, and he can definitely step in because the Rams had a lot of injuries last season, and he was able to step in key situations. I remember seeing one game. I think it was with I can't remember who it was, but he made a crucial play, a crucial catch, and hey, you can never have too many of those guys because you never know when your number is going to get called. Just look at Week 18 against the Colts. That guy missed an easy catch.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. All right. And Poppy, are you? How do you feel comfortable with this trade? How do you?
Yeah,
I feel
like it's a good trade, all things considered. Like we only gave up a 6th rounder for him, and we got a 7th rounder back. So, I mean, it'll be a shame if that 6th rounder turns into a Hall of Famer in like 10 years or whatever. But like I said, it's something that's going to help the team now. Maybe not completely turn the tides, but definitely move the needle even a little bit. So I feel like Nick Casario and D'Amico are cooking something up, and I like it.
Yeah, it feels like they're sticking to that theory of low risk, high reward.
Yeah, less is more sometimes, man.
Yeah, less is more sometimes. So I like that theory. So I think hopefully becomes a good contributor to this. Now, with that being said, there was a name that I mentioned in there, and Rios also mentioned Robert Woods, and then there's John Mechie. So before I move on to the next topic, what are your expectations, gentlemen, for Robert Woods and John Mechie? Do you see both of these guys on this roster next year? I mean, excuse me, this upcoming season. Rios, your thoughts?
I only see one of them making the roster, and that's Mechie. He struggled a bit times last year, but again, he was coming back from leukemia. That does a toll on your body, and it takes a while to basically get back into just regular shape and then get into football shape. So it took him a little bit longer, and he was starting to show flashes towards the end of the season and in the postseason. So I think now that he's fully healthy, has a full regular off season where he has a chance to build a little bit more chemistry with CJ and continue getting back into football shape. I think he should definitely improve upon his last season. Like I mentioned with Robert Woods, he has a $5 million cap savings, and I don't see him making the roster, especially with that addition of Skowronek. I don't see him making the team.
There you go. Poppy, what do you think about?
I agree with him. I feel like even though Mechie didn't show too much last year, obviously coming back from what he went through is a lot. The potential is still there. That's the reason why we got him in the first place. So I feel like training camp is going to be fun. They're going to be fighting. They're going to be fighting for that spot. I think it's going to be closer than some people might think, but I do give Mechie the nod when it's all said and done, and we'll see what becomes of that. Now, should maybe one of them be traded right now for something? I'm not too sure what the plans are for that, but looking at the receiver core the Texans are rocking with right now, with somebody like CJ behind him, it's like the sky's the limit for this score. So,
right, and then let's not forget the Texans also signed Jaden and Jackson Jank, which are identical twins as well. So other wide receivers as well added on to that. But the realistic expectation of them making it, who knows as well. Again, the Texans do have all these guys in the roster, and eventually they're going to have to cut down to 53 before the regular season starts. So I do agree with you 100%. I am interested in seeing what the results are come training camp, and then obviously they'll make their cuts, and then obviously through preseason as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Texans have the very first game in the preseason with the Hall of Fame game, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Against the Bears.
The Bears, yeah, exactly. So you'll definitely see some cuts beforehand. So I just wanted to bring that up, that they did sign identical twins. I saw a post saying, what's funny about that? Since they're identical twins, you can literally just have them switch out gear in the middle and just keep fresh legs open, fresh legs on the whole time.
Yeah, for real.
There you go. But yeah, nonetheless, I'll agree with Robert Woods and John Mechie. I believe that John Mechie has a better chance of making this roster than Robert Woods. As we talked about Ben Skowronek, I think Rios brought it up earlier. I think with the addition of Ben Skowronek, you're going to see a little bit less of Robert Woods. The Texans do save a $5 million cap if that's the case. So I think getting Ben Skowronek probably takes away a little bit from Robert Woods, and they might just, he might not be in this roster or whatnot. So
yeah, it just makes
odd
sense.
man out, I guess. But for John Mechie, I see. Towards the end of last season, John Mechie, you started seeing just a little bit more of him. Basically the last couple of games, you saw a little bit more. You saw him being added on to a few of those plays. So I am ready to see, like Rio said, how much he has obviously trained during the offseason to come back and maybe be an essential part of the Texans wide receiving core, and see him compete out for maybe another role in this team. So it'll be interesting to see, and you never know. One of these guys may be used for trade bait, maybe send another guy and get something else. Nick Casares is all about making trades, making deals. So you never know. Maybe one of these guys shows off, and guess what? You might see him being traded somewhere or whatnot. So anything at this point, finally, there is some predictability, some unpredictability with the Houston Texans. You don't know exactly what Nick Casario and the front office are going to do. There's unpredictability in here. So I think that's a great thing to have. It makes fans, I think, speculate a lot more than what they were doing previous year. So honestly, it's a good thing. It's exciting times for Texans fans for sure. All right. Coming up next in our next segment, the boys and I will be evaluating the Texans secondary with a little trade rumor. All this and more after these announcements.
Pew, 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 pew. Announcements.
Wow.
What?
This should be a mute button. Anyway, so wow. I wanted to evaluate a little bit of the on the Texans secondary. There is depth after the Texans draft, as we mentioned in our previous episode. The Texans got Kamari Lassiter. They have Caden Bullock as well. They added some pieces, and along the lines, there's Jalen Petrie, there's Desmond King, there's Derek Stingley. You have a plethora of secondary players for the Texans that can make some sparkle, make some noise, and eventually they all fit in D'Amico's system, or at least we think. Jalen Petrie, basically last season almost non-existent, kind of picked it up a little bit towards the end. And as we mentioned in the previous episode, with the Texans getting Caden Bullock, which is a ball hawk as we know it from seeing in USC, one of the bright spots in the atrocious USC defense that they had. Honestly, it makes me think that the Texans are still giving Jalen Petrie a chance, to prove himself. But if not, hey, there's somebody ready to take the job or whatnot, ready to take over the helm or whatnot in the safety position. So I wanted to get your thoughts really quick before we actually analyze. What are your thoughts on the depth on the secondary this upcoming season for the Texans? Rios, I'm gonna leave you last because I'm gonna switch it up a bit. Poppy, where do you think of the secondary so far with all these acquisitions that the Texans got during the draft and even some of the acquisitions they got during free agency?
So what I would say is like even with, with how shaky the secondary was last year, to put it in kind words, I feel like at this point, if you're the Texans, that was one of the main positions where you needed, like an overhaul type of change. And Stingley did very well. He was the bright light in that secondary last year. Petrie, like you said, some games completely non-existent. Had good games,
Yeah.
but it wasn't consistent enough for what the team needed. So I feel like with the depth right now, you really can, at this point, if you're a Texans, you can't really have too many or too much depth in that position. I feel like training camp is going to be pretty eye-opening as to who the starter is going to be and what this scheme is really going to look like defensively. There's rumors. I'm sure we'll get around it here in a little bit. There's rumors about maybe the Texans are not done trading in that secondary, but as what it stands right now, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if there's more to come.
Okay. You don't think the Texans are done yet?
I don't think. I mean, I could, if D'Amico were to say tomorrow that, as far as the secondary goes, as far as the defense goes, we're done for the rest of the offseason, I wouldn't be completely disappointed. But at the same time, I feel like the way they've been doing things, just maybe not like super flashy trades, but just to just small trades here and there just to help the team. Again, besides Stephon Diggs, I could see more of that happening. Mm-hmm. Although, if they did it for the offense, there's not nothing going against that. Maybe they'll sign they'll try to trade for somebody big on the defensive side of the ball. Who's that player? It remains to be seen. I'm just saying I wouldn't put all my eggs in this basket right now if I was the Texans.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Poppy. Rios, what's your take on this thing?
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, just to build up what Poppy said. There is definitely a talent drop off at corner, especially because you have Stingley that's basically up here, but he's on the cusp of being one of those elite shutdown corners. Right. And then from there, it's a big uncertainty at the number 2 corner spot, which more than likely will be Jeff Okudah, just because he has more experience playing on the outside, and he has more top end speed to cover some of the faster guys than Lassiter would have. Because even though he doesn't have like the best 40 time, there were some plays where he did get burned a little deep. He was just lucky the receiver didn't make the play. So I think you have a lot of unknowns in the number 2 corner spot and number 3 corner spot. So like Eduardo said, like there is going to be a possibility of them adding to that secondary just because it's a lot of unknowns. At safety, I think they're pretty much set. There's been rumors that they might move Jimmy Ward to that nickel position so you can have both Bullock and Petrie back there. And he's not opposed because he played that role in San Francisco under D'Amico, so he brings some familiarity to that role.
Did you just use this man's government name?
What did he say?
My boy said Eduardo.
I'm like, damn. What did I do to you, man?
You were born.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I literally had no part in that.
Yeah.
Literally no part in that.
Anyway.
I just showed up. That's it.
You just showed up, yeah. No, I agree with both of you. Honestly, it's almost like a big question. Derek Stingley is going to start as CB1. That's a given. And on the opposite end, it's like who, obviously Steven Nelson's gone. So what do we have next? Rio said, and I agree with him. Jeff Okuda is probably your best chance right now because uh, Lassiter is new. They're probably going to use him more on the inside than anything. Um, but and then maybe he'll eventually, as time goes on, he'll probably fall into that role because they're going to count on Jeff Okuda. So there's a little bit of almost uncertainty of where they may put some players. Rio's also mentioned right now that they may be moving Jimmy Ward where again, Rios? I'm sorry, to the slot.
Nickel.
Nickel, I apologize. Yeah, the nickel. And then you have guys like Desmond King. Also, you have guys like Desmond King, and then another person that the Texans used to have that is back on the team, but if it feels like it's almost like, oh yeah, we forgot that he's in there. Lonnie Johnson's back.
Yeah,
Lonnie Johnson is back, and the thing about Lonnie, I mean, with New Orleans, he was playing corner, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then, but when the Texans had him in his first stint, I think they put him at safety.
He started off a corner. He transitioned to safety towards the end of his tenure, but he wasn't necessarily very strong at the safety position. He was a little bit better at corner, but I mean, that's not saying much.
Yeah. And so I think with Lonnie's first stint, it obviously it didn't work out as well as anybody would have expected. Went off to different teams. And now he's back. Last season he was with the Saints or whatnot, and a particular teammate of his was in the Saints that it looked like, according to this is one of the rumors here, and it looked like in how do you call it, Lonnie Johnson's Instagram, it seemed like he was recruiting one of his former teammates with the Saints, Lattimore.
tampering.
So, how would we feel if we got Lattimore here to the Houston Texans? Would that necessarily be a good fit for the Texans in this D'Amico Ryans defense? Do you guys see him fitting in? How would that look like if we just added Lattimore to the Texans? Rios, what is your take on that?
Well, it for sure guarantees he won't get suspended fighting Mike Evans. That's pretty much a yearly tradition. With him and Mike Evans, it's like the Family episode when Peter Griffin fights the chicken.
The chicken, yeah. Which episode?
Everyone, but no, I think he would be a solid addition. Definitely answers at the cornerback 2 position. The only issue I really see is his cap hit in 2025 is $31 million. So they would have to work something out to lower the cap because that's a huge chunk for a guy that's not going to be your top corner.
Right, that's the thing.
So that's the tricky part. You'd have to basically do a new deal with him to lower the cap hit. But from what I've been reading on, especially on, I think on Bleacher Report, I think the compensation looked like a 4th or 5th rounder. Which, if that's the case, it sounds like a steal to me. But again, it's going to come down to the contract details and that cap hit. Because because next season you have to pay Derek Stingley, you have to pay Nico Collins, so because Sarah's going to have his homework cut out for him as far as cap space the next 2 seasons.
Right. Okay. Poppy, what's your take on this one?
For me, whether it happens or not, I think it's going to come down to how aggressive the Texans want to be for the rest of the offseason. We obviously understand that the Texans want to be competitive. The moves that they've made so far show that. Lattimore would be a definite upgrade, I would say, in the corner position. Like I just said, like you cannot have that too much depth in the secondary when you're the Texans. Oh, he's gone. Oh, thank goodness. So whether or not he fits on the scheme, I'm not too sure. I don't know, because we're just what's the word I'm looking for? We're just assuming this because of Lonnie Johnson's Instagram and stuff like that. Like
these are all hypotheticals, yeah.
People saying hypotheticals, assuming things, reading into things, until something comes out closer to, D'Amico's camp.
Right.
I'm not trying to, take anything for granted at this point. I'm not trying to assume anything. I'm not trying to just accept it. Like I'm just gonna accept it for what it is. It's just a rumor.
Right.
Overall, I feel like it would be a good addition, but I'm not in the war room. I'm not designing plays and stuff like that. The fit, I feel like Rios will know more about it. I didn't watch a lot of the Saints last season, as you guys know.
For personal
So
reasons.
Well, he's a great cover corner. He would definitely fit in the scheme of whenever they run man. In zone, not as strong in zone coverage. He's a
Right.
much more of a man-to-man specialist. So they would have to change up the scheme. He's still Tad, but not too much because he's still got guys like Jimmy Ward and Lassiter that will probably excel in zone coverage.
okay, I mean, if that's the case, if we can, if the Texans can find a way of fitting it into the system seamlessly, then I think it might be worth, the cap hit for next year and all that. Not necessarily the cap hit, but like the having to deal with that next year, because like you said, they have to pay all these guys. So if the Miko and Nick Cassera can make it happen, go for it. The Texans need it, and the Texans, I feel like this addition would only make them better, especially because with the injuries, we know Stingley is not an Iron Man out there. He's missed some time, so it's always good to have like a number 2 corner that can, maybe go up to that level when his number is called. But overall, I would say yes, but that's not written in stone right now. So too afraid to give a concrete opinion on that.
Yeah. So I would say I would welcome the acquisition of Lattimore of Marshawn Lattimore. I do think that it perhaps wouldn't be as like it would be almost like, how can I put this? There wouldn't be as much for the Texans to trade, I believe, and the reason for that is because the Saints are really up against that salary cap. So I think they're going to be in 2025. I think they're like at over the cap by $72.8 million.
How much of that is just their car?
A huge chunk of his cap hit is ridiculous.
Right.
Like, how much of that is just?
I think we had discussed it in our group chat not too long ago. I think his cap hit increases exponentially year after year. I think at one point it hits like $40 or $50 million. Right. They have like 3 years before they can even have an out with their car's contract.
And they've struggled. The Saints have struggled to go under the cap for quite some time. I mean, this dating back to like Drew Brees or whatnot.
Yeah, they've struggled to be competitive since then.
Yeah, and so apparently, with Lattimore, I think he's supposed to. I think he's like he was at 14.6 million in 2024, and then it jumps to 31.4 in 2025, and then 28.6 million in his final year.
That's ridiculous.
So I think one of the reasons why the Saints probably got Kool-Aid McKinstry ahead of the Texans is probably because they're probably looking to shop how do you call it, Marshawn Lattimore around. It would make sense for them salary wise,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the NFL is a business. It really is. So maybe the Texans could be a team that could be looking into it. That depth, I don't think is Texans. I know they've already they have a lot of depth, but a guy that's like Marshawn Lattimore, if they're able to restructure some of that and maybe go stick to their guns with low risk, high reward, that could be a possibility if they can fit that in. And I could potentially see them. And then the Texans have become another thing is the Texans have become a competitive team. You have players that want to be here. Point blank, Danielle Hunter could have taken more money to go with the Colts, decided to stay with the Houston Texans. So that motivates other players to do that. Some players want the bag. Some players do want to earn something.
Yeah, they
want to ring. So that could be a possibility with that. So and he's what, 27 years old.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
still, it's
He's still in
still
his prime. Still in
he's
his
still
athletic prime.
I think he was 11th pick in 2017, and he's been one of the better defensive backs in the league in 7 seasons. 15 interceptions along with 86 deflected passes, 2 defensive touchdowns. Like, I think that would help the Texans, but of course, all in perspective of how much of the scheme and will actually fit into his player ability. Rios, what do you think of that? What do you make of that, sir?
Well, like I mentioned as before, like he's like a cover specialist, just like Stingley is. So having 2 shutdown corners on the outside, it makes it that much easier for your other guys in the back secondary, and it also makes it a little bit easier in your pass rush because they don't have no one to throw to. Quarterback holds the ball a little bit longer, and you get more sacks out of that. So it can only benefit the team. I think the only thing they'll have to change just a little bit is maybe run a little bit more man coverage versus this. Because I think primarily they ran about 60% of zone last year, so they might have to change it a little bit, but it's not going to be a huge stretch to try to make him fit into this scheme.
Right. There you go, Poppy.
If they do make this happen, if Lattimore does go to the Texans, and kind of like you said, Rios, like maybe the passing game for the opposite team slows down a little bit, that means they're going to try to run the ball more. Does that then turn into, okay, so what are the Texans? Do the Texans need to do something else to help that D line to stop the run a little bit more? So I feel like it's just gonna like move the issue somewhere else. But because the secondary was, I would say, the biggest issue with the Texans last year, I feel like if they do make this happen, it's only gonna be good. So
look at, because keep in mind on the defensive line, you still have Daniel Hunter. You got
they do. They make some moves, but
Danico Autry, you got Will Anderson, and then the other guys as well. Like they're not as talented as Autry, but at the same time they still fill up space, and it's gonna be hard to run the ball on them. I don't see them having a drop off as far as run stopping.
Do you think that if they do make this happen, are the Texans then done for the offseason?
No, I don't think so.
What else do you think they might go after?
They may go after another defensive tackle, just to because you want to take advantage of
like insurance,
being on his rookie deal.
Insurance type of thing.
Yeah, because Autry is 34, 35 years old, so you want to have some type of insurance at your defensive tackle number 2 position. And again, the time to go all in was going to be when your rookie quarterback is on his rookie deal.
Yeah,
right.
So it's literally going to be this year and definitely next year that you kind of like try
their
to
window.
Their
window. Yeah, the team's window is essentially between this season until the 2026 season.
Yeah,
because the following year is when you got to either pick up CJ's 5th-year option or go ahead and start the long-term structure deal.
Yeah,
Texans are definitely in win now mode, and going back to the secondary, I think one of the main reasons why the Texans kind of bulked up in the secondary. If you look at, we're not going to go into obviously the schedule or anything, but I want to talk about the teams that they go against that are QB.
pass heavy.
Against some QBs that definitely going to need some secondary.
And I think I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago. You just go back to the game where they played the Cincinnati Bengals last year,
right?
Like Cincinnati was banged up. That was a game that the Texans should have probably won a little bit more comfortably, given how good the team was going into that game and how bad Cincinnati was going into that game. But because Burrow just loved throwing that thing around, and the Texans had no answer defensively for that, that's what kept them in the game. That's what had to make CJ make throw after throw and get first down after first down. It was like a shootout back and forth. So and that's
the thing. Yeah. Sorry, Bobby. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. And like this year, the schedule hasn't been released yet, but we know the Texans, the teams that are going to be playing.
Yeah. And a lot of them are very heavy. Like you got
Mahomes,
Detroit,
Aaron Rodgers,
Dallas, Green Bay, Kansas City. Depending now, keep this in mind. Depending how Aaron Rodgers is, if he came back to it, you got the Jets that may be one of those teams that could be a threat in the QB position, and you got Miami as well. So you got some teams that will definitely sling the ball around, and you need that corner depth. You need that secondary to be ready to go, because this is a tough schedule for the Texans this upcoming season.
Not just depth, but talent. Because you can have all the depth in the world, but if they're not talented enough, they're going to get torched.
Yeah,
as we saw last season.
100%. So I think they're getting ready for that. With the depth that they're adding and these guys that they have coming in. I mean, honestly, we've seen some of these guys on the team previously, and then the acquisition of Jeff Okuda, CJ Henderson, Mike Ford. Now of course some of these guys may be special team also, but they can be used in some of those reps to maybe give some guys a break here and there. Of course you got Stingley, Desmond King, you have Jalen Petrie, you have the new addition. Sorry, my dogs are going on. The new additions that the Texans got, so all of these guys will be played in the mix. And that's the thing with DeMeco Ryan's defense. There's going to be constant rotations. Like there's never like the same guy. I mean, you're going to have your main core guys, and the rotations are going to keep coming as well to just kind of keep fresh legs going also. And all these guys have to understand the assignment.
Yeah, when you look at the playoff game against Baltimore last year, the defense was out there so much,
right,
that on the second half they were completely gassed.
Yeah,
and that's when Baltimore kind of ran away with it. So it kind of likes what you're saying, like if you can rotate the defense a little bit more, and everybody can step their game up, then maybe the Texans won't find themselves in those situations where the game is getting away from them.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't so much on defense being gassed. That was the offense couldn't put it together any drives. The defense was gassed because they were out there so much because the offense couldn't put up any points.
Yeah, but if you can get more stops, you're getting more breaks though.
They shut Baltimore down in the first half. It's just
in the first half. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The offense scored 3 points. The Texans' offense scored 3 points. The other 7 points came from special teams.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, was that an interception or was that no? That wasn't the Browns game where the Texans.
It was a punt return.
It was a punt return. That's what it was.
So, definitely. It's definitely I think that's one of the reasons why DeMeco and Caserio lowered it up basically on this. You do need talent, like Rio said, but you also need depth as well. It's a good fine balance between both of those things. And again, there's a good chance they were looking at the schedule and said, okay, we're gonna need some guys, some defensive backs because we're gonna go against some quarterbacks that that are gonna give us a run for our money. And so what's that?
And Dak Prescott.
And Dak Prescott as well. Yeah. So there's that. So, but yeah, that's what I think. So that's us, I think, going evaluating a little bit of the position or whatnot. But again, going back to the acquisition of Lattimore here, Marshawn Lattimore, I think it would be possible, acquisition of I think it would be helpful. Yes, I think it would definitely opposite side of Derek Stingley, but we'll see, we'll see what happens, and we'll just keep going along with it. But so far, pretty interesting offseason for the Texans, both free agency and during the draft. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what everybody's seen from the Texans. So any final thoughts, Rios or Poppy?
No, it's funny. So I'm going back. So I don't know if you guys remember when we first started, covering the Texans, there wasn't a whole lot of positive things to discuss about the team. There wasn't a whole lot of people wanted to hear Texas content, and now got people tuning in every week.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a competitive team. It's a competitive team that players, as you can see, Danielle Hunter being one of them, who turned down more money, like I said, turned down more money, from the Colts to come to Houston, so that speaks volumes. And the coach that you have, DeMeco Ryans, the culture has definitely shifted over here for the Texans.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, they were basically a rudderless ship sailing off into the abyss. There was No
we said
direction
this-
whatsoever.
We said this 2 years ago. Well, I said this 2 years ago.
Mhm.
If you win on the field, the fans will come. People would want to watch, not little parks, not little anything.
Give it time.
If you win on the field, more eyes will want to watch, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Right, and I believe that's why CJ Stroud kept telling fans to come. Yeah, over the microphone. Yeah, I remember that. But regardless, I think that's it. I think we've covered just about everything we needed to. All right, that's gonna be it for us this week. Join us next Friday again when we drop our episode here on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bring on the Blitz podcast at B Blitz Pod on our YouTube channel, and of course, follow our amazing podcast network at RS Skina, IG account at RS Skina, and the X account at RS Skina as well, just like you see it. And of course, for amazing Astros content, please follow the guys at Full Steam Ahead as well. They give you top-notch Astros content. And that's going to be it for us. See y'all next week, next Friday, and with more NFL and more Texans comment. Peace.
Ciao, ciao.